This is the 20,000 mile review of the Volkswagen ID.4. Hello and welcome to JKEV. I'm Joe.
I'm Christina.
And today we're going to do a comprehensive 20,000 mile review of our ID.4. So to be exact, we're at 21,055 miles. We haven't had time to film this yet, but we're going to go through, first we're going to just talk about our first impressions about the car, what we expected, what's the reality. Then I'll do a walk around on the outside as well as the interior to show any parts that could show wear and tear or build quality issues. And then we'll go back to the studio and we'll talk in depth about the efficiency as well as a couple other categories and what we have planned in the future for the ID.4. So the quick overview of the car, it's the 2021 Volkswagen ID.4 First Edition. That has the 77 kilowatt hour usable battery pack, single motor rear wheel drive, 201 horsepower, 229 torques. EPA ranges from 240 miles for a fully loaded all-wheel drive, 250 miles for a base model all-wheel drive, as well as ours is 250 miles, and then 260 miles for the base model rear-wheel drive. Starting price is, well, it was $39,900. This year they bumped up the price a little bit by about $800. I think it's $40,700 right now if you wanted to go order one. Another tip about this vehicle, there's like a 6-month wait if you go to order it. Hopefully that should kind of go down over time as they open up the Chattanooga factory. But my advice is just shop around. I mean, these cars are all the same. There's nothing special about buying it from one dealer over another. So as long as you do your homework and find the vehicle you want, I'd recommend, if you're open to doing a little travel, make the deal over the phone and, do a deposit, then make sure it's refundable. Go check out the vehicle, and in most cases you can get a vehicle within a week. You don't have to wait 6 months to go get one. We're actually shopping to replace our Kia Niro right now, and we're not doing a reservation process. We're going to just go to the dealer that has the vehicle we want and go replace it. We haven't completely decided what vehicle that is yet, though, so stay tuned.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conundrum.
And now, a word from Mala.
Hi, this is Mala, and she would really like it if you could like and subscribe and hit that bell.
So yeah, let's start with, before saying about the good, the bad, the ugly, I was thinking, why don't we just chat about when we first bought this car back in April of 2021, what were our first impressions? What were we looking to get out of this vehicle? So you can go ahead first.
So there are a few things that we definitely were looking for as a first impression. I feel like we definitely wanted the road trip car, so we wanted to make sure it was very comfortable and something that had like decent mileage.
Yeah, we had the Kia Niro. Before the Kia Niro, had a Chevy Volt. And, when we bought the Niro, we were contemplating doing a plug-in hybrid. We kind of regretted that we didn't. When we bought the Chevy Volt, we bought a plug-in, obviously that is a plug-in hybrid. And one of the biggest inconveniences was having to plug the vehicle in every night. Like everywhere you went, you're always trying to find a plug so you can maximize your electric range. Whereas going to a fully electric vehicle, we've actually found is way more convenient because we just plug it in once a week, twice a week, and in the wintertime definitely twice a week, but during summertime once a week, and we get our 200 plus miles of range that we expect. So that we found that to be actually a big plus, and so that's why I am pretty sure at this point we're going to replace the Kia Niro with another electric vehicle and just be a fully electric household. Worst case scenario, if there's a road trip that we had to go on that there wasn't a good charging infrastructure yet, we can always go rent a car. But for our daily life around town, it is so much more convenient of never needing to go fill up. It's just drive to work, drive home, and that's pretty much it. And so on the road trips, yeah, it does add a little bit of time, but I would argue that I think that's been enjoyed because we get out of the car more often and such. We'll go more into depth about that later, but we kind of finally took the plunge with going electric, and we ended up with the Volkswagen ID.4. I know that we test drove the Ford Mustang Mach-E. We both drove that. We also both drove the Tesla Model Y. That's the gorilla in the room, right? And then we also were looking at some other cars, like we looked at the Mini SE. Unfortunately, the range was just too short on that for us right now. You know, maybe as a second car when we replace the Niro, that's an option. But really, it came down to the ID.4 was, at the time, $15,000 cheaper than the Tesla. So really not even competitors at that point when you factor in that. And the Mach-E was a couple $1,000s cheaper to go with this. I personally like the Mach-E a little more for the sportiness, but for a road tripper, you know, this car with the free charging for 3 years and the ride comfort just seemed to be a better buy at the time. And you know, I think it worked out pretty well getting this vehicle for sure. We did pre-order it. We set as soon as it became available back in September, we within minutes put our money down to get this vehicle, and maybe that did work out for us getting it quite early, that it was ready to be picked up in early April of 2021. However, as I mentioned earlier, we could have also just gone to a slew of other dealers and gone and picked one up from there. So, but you know, for us, the ordering process did work out in this case just because we ordered it so early in advance.
Yeah, there is definitely a moment where we actually got cold feet, and I'm so happy we stuck to it. It has been great for the most part. I mean, I've never really got so comfortable in a car before, and I have to say, like, this is definitely a great family car to have, especially for the road trips, of which you guys know we do a lot of. So it's definitely something to consider as a long-term vehicle. I could definitely say that.
Yeah, I would say if you're in the market for any sort of SUV, whether it's electric or not, and you know, even if you think you want a RAV4 or whatever, I would just recommend going and giving, you know, this or the Mach-E a test drive, and I think you might be surprised. The 0 to 60 time on this is only 7.5 seconds, which is pretty comparable for the class. But because the instant electric acceleration, what's really more relevant is when you're moving. Like right now, I'm doing 60 miles an hour, and if I punch it, the power is always there. And we're in eco mode right now because we're trying to save a little energy. But it's a lot more fun driving, because we test drove the CR-V and the RAV4 as well as the Toyota 4Runner. I mean, we had a big list that we whittled down to a small list.
Super smooth.
Yeah, and getting this vehicle was this one leapt off the page at us once we had driven them all.
Yes.
So now let's go take a walk around of the exterior of the vehicle, and then we'll take a dive on the inside and see how this vehicle's held up over the first now 21,000 miles. All right, now let's take a quick walk around of the outside of the ID.4. The first thing I'll highlight is this is the plastic bit that had been replaced already once before. See, it kind of moves a little bit. There's like a gap in between there. The original one was way worse. So this one has been an improvement since they replaced that. But the paint in particular has held up excellent. The rims are in pretty good condition. I think only one of them had a little spot that's been curbed. What really helps with the rims is that the tire, you can kind of see, sticks out past the rim. So if you did catch a curb a little bit, the tire is going to take the beating before the rim. There's the spot right there that's been nicked a little bit, but other than that, rim's in really good condition. Another place to highlight, I know, sorry for the car being a touch dirty, but is the side of the car. Sometimes rocks can get kicked up from the front tires and hit the back. This is all just salt. So you see all those spots will come right off. Just the unfortunate part of living in Illinois in the winter. Now another place to highlight would be the front bumper, since there is a lot of exposed paint right here. And as I scan across, the paint is just in excellent condition. Just little bits of salt that have been kicked up from the roads around here, but the front bumper's been covered with bugs really, really bad, and it all washes right off, and the paint still holds through as being very good, high quality paint. It's not as soft as some other car brands, so that's much appreciated for sure. The only spot that I did want to highlight on the exterior is this scratch that we have right here in the windshield. This is on one of our road trips. We caught some mud from the truck in front of us, We tried to get it repaired, but Safelite said it's just a scratch, it's not a chip, so I guess that's a big win that we didn't have to get the windshield replaced or anything like that. And this is not even Volkswagen's fault, this is our fault. I mean, we caught, you know, or nobody's fault really. There came off a rock came off a truck in front of us, and unfortunately we were in its way. So something else I totally forgot to mention when I was walking around the exterior of the vehicle is that we replaced our tires already. We had just over 20,000 miles on the vehicle, and our tires were getting pretty close to being ready to replace, and we're here in winter time, so traction was starting to be limited. And we happened to get a flat tire that could not be repaired. And so the thought process we went through is, instead of just getting one tire or two tires, we knew we were going to need to replace them in a couple months anyway. So I went ahead, got 4 tires from Tire Rack. We went over there, picked it up. If you're nearby a Tire Rack, I suggest certainly going and checking out their facility. They do a great job, and they're usually a little more reasonably priced than Discount Tire or any of the other people around. But yep, just one of the unfortunate things of having an electric vehicle. There's not many downsides, but you certainly burn through tires quicker because rather than coasting with a normal vehicle, you'd be letting off the accelerator pedal and coasting quite frequently. With an electric vehicle, because of the regenerative braking, you're always accelerating or decelerating. Very rarely are you coasting unless you have your settings set up a little bit differently. So in our case, we drive in B mode all the time, and we also the instant acceleration is fun to constantly maybe use a little too much, and so it causes us to burn through tires a little quicker than we'd like. But it's a small price to pay for all the other benefits the vehicle has. Now back to the video. But all in all, the exterior of the car is in excellent condition, and we're very happy with the color choice we had. And now let's move into the interior. So now for the interior, door panels and everything are in really good shape. Just a little detailer that's right there I have to wipe off, but excellent shape. No scratches, no nicks, nothing to write home about. Door sill here is just a plastic door sill. Has a couple little scuffs, but in good shape. We opted for the WeatherTech floor mats. Plan on doing a little bit more of a review of these, how much they really do a good job of catching all the salt around here. I do wish it went a little bit higher on the dead pedal right up here, but we're very happy with them at this point. Play and pause pedals are getting a little dirty too from all the salt around here. Need to do a little bit of cleaning. But really the biggest part of the interior that I had concern about originally was these side bolsters right here. As you can see, they are in excellent condition. No signs of wear from getting in and out of every day, and hopefully that continues going forward. And then the biggest part, the white steering wheel. Not sure how well the camera picks it up, but it is in excellent condition. We've had a couple stains on it, but they wipe right off. We just use literally wet rag and some of our interior cleaner from the EV wash kit. And yeah, we're very happy with it. Obviously all the piano black, no matter how hard we try, continues to get smudged up all the time, but as long as we continually wipe it down, that's the best it can be. The screen, as you can see here, collects all the fingerprints. But that's kind of just one of the flaws of having everything run through a touchscreen. Same story over here on the passenger side. Everything's in pretty good shape. Just a couple little scuffs from getting in and out on the door sill. The WeatherTech has done a great job of protecting the interior from all the salt. And then when we go to this seat, same story. The bolsters are in excellent condition. So very happy with whatever type of material this is. I know it's like a man-made leatherette, but it sure seems to hold up pretty well. Also, one of our favorite features, memory seats and massaging seats on both the driver and passenger side with 4-way lumbar. Super comfortable seats. Can't say enough about them. Much of the same story here in the back. We've had passengers in the back quite a few times, and the back of the seats have held up really well from sometimes shoes getting kicked against them or from knees rubbing against them, and etc. They seem to be holding up very well, so not much to complain from on the interior, that's for sure, at least from a build quality perspective. And the last bit of the interior is the rear hatch. This carpet here has done really well of holding up. We've had tons of luggage in here through all of our trips, some dirty shoes and stuff, and we've been able to keep it clean pretty well. Happy with this material that that's made with. It doesn't, it seems to hold it pretty well. It's not fraying or anything like that. It's nice to have these little cargo hooks right over here for shopping bags and stuff, for groceries. And yeah, same story in the back. It's just been a pretty good vehicle all around, and we're more than happy with the build quality. Also, for those who have never been to Chicago, this is always a hilarious thing you see when you come down here. See this chair and this little milk crate and garbage can here. This is how people mark their parking spot after digging out their car so nobody else takes it. Gotta love it. Gotta love Chicago style. All right, so we talked a little bit about our first impressions. Then I've shown you the exterior, interior of the vehicle. I've shown that it's actually held up pretty well. I'm a little bit impressed on really seeing no signs of wear, especially with this white steering wheel. So now we are gonna go ahead and take turns saying some things we liked and disliked about the vehicle. I guess should we start with some things we dislike or like? What should we start with first?
We can start with some things we don't like.
Okay. So for me, the biggest one is got to be the infotainment. It's just, for us, or I should say for when we're trip planning, it's not that bad because I can, go to a better route planner. That's the app that we use. We'll do a full in-depth video on that here coming up in a bit. But I can plan out a trip. I know where the stops are. I print it out, so it's not that difficult. But the problem is, when you're trying to sell this car to the average consumer that has never had an electric vehicle before, I don't think it's right to sell them the car and then they get in to go do their first road trip, punch in a city that's like Denver, 1,000 miles away, and the car says it's not possible to go there because there's no chargers. That's something that's got to get fixed, because that's the biggest hurdle with mass EV adoption, is getting people to be able to feel comfortable at all times that they know they can always know a charger's nearby. And yeah, that's kind of I think that's the biggest learning curve, because as far as the way it drives, drives like a normal car. The radio and all that stuff is just like a normal car, so great. But the infotainment is the biggest one. Yeah, it's a little bit sluggish and stuff like that too. I've learned to live with that. That stuff doesn't bother me. That's sometimes a little slow when you swipe from screen to screen. But it's really the navigation, trip planning, routing would be my biggest gripe about the car. Another one is sometimes it's a little bit too soft of a suspension, but that's all personal opinion. Some people like that floaty ride. I wish it was a little bit more Volkswagen, like a little more Euro suspension. What's something else then the other thing is, it's not really a negative. We've had a bunch of recalls on the vehicle, and really, I should say, recalls are almost more of a positive, because that means Volkswagen identified something wrong with the car, and they're stepping up saying that they're going to fix it. So, not really, I guess, too much of a negative, but there's a steering wheel recall that we have not done yet. It's one of the gears internally that we need to go do. The seat belts, I believe the rear seat belts were replaced, and then there was the headlights were. There was like a piece of the headlights that was installed incorrectly on most of the ID.4s. It was installed the way they use them in Europe. They had to change that for the US. And then the last thing was the tail light. I showed you when we were walking around the exterior that that little piece of plastic was bubbling up. It was not bubbling, but kind of bowing off the car a little bit. That developed a little bit of a squeak that we could hear inside when we would hit certain bumps. So Volkswagen went ahead and replaced that for us. I don't think that was technically a recall, but Volkswagen took care of it, so there's no real negative there. As long as they take care of the problem and they did it efficiently, I have nothing to complain about. I will say, when they did replace it, they forgot the logo, so we had to go like a month a month without a VW logo on the back of the car, which had some people asking questions to us.
It was stolen. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you want to go over your negatives now? Or
yeah.
Okay,
so I just have a few minor negatives that I want to talk about. The first thing I noticed is almost instantly when me and Joe both get into the car, it connects to one phone and not the other that it's supposed to connect to, so it throws us off when we want to try to do our navigation or put our music on, and it's just a little bit of a nuisance to have to go ahead and take it off the Bluetooth setting and then make sure it's connected to the proper phone, and it just takes a few minutes, but it's it shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, my phone is set as the primary phone, I never turn Bluetooth or Wi-Fi off on my phone, so there's no reason it shouldn't immediately connect.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what causes that bug. And then sometimes it can be quite difficult to actually get it to switch to my phone. Like, she'll have to literally turn off her Wi-Fi or something to get CarPlay to disconnect, which I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of the moral of most of these negatives is they're all software. So, if they ever give us a software update that we've been waiting for a year, that could make a huge difference in what we think of this car. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we still both like this car, but we could like it a lot more if these little bugs got fixed.
Right. Another issue I want to talk about is when I try to go into the climate controls, like if I want to just like put one setting on for my heated butt seat or the steering wheel, I have to go through like 2 steps to get into that setting, whereas like other cars it's right there, you push it once and that's it, you don't have to worry about it. Instead you have to like take your eyes off and like look at the screen for a little bit longer than you should, and it's just like, it could have been so much easier, but Volkswagen wanted to make it a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, it's especially interesting because there's little heated seat icons right here, but if you touch those, it'll take you to the menu where then you can turn on the heated seats, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I guess technically you can tell the voice control to do that, but that's something that has been, and that's not really against Volkswagen. I think all voice control could use improvement in any car brand. So, but yeah, ideally, and that's just, I guess, a personal preference, right? Some people really like the Tesla methodology of put everything into a screen, and it gives it a very clean look in here. I still am one of those more traditional people that I like traditional climate controls, like separate those out of the screen, put them down lower, kind of like how the new Kia EV6 Ioniq 5 is going to be. That all the controls are down here for climate. You never need to jump through a menu to get to it.
Yeah. So my third biggest issue, I would say, out of all of them, is the travel assist. Sometimes it just does not work. I don't know why. It's just like, it always happens when me and Joe are on our road trip, and it'll just like stop working, and it's like, that's when it's prime time. You want to use it. You don't want to just like, have your foot on the gas pedal the whole time. It's just, I don't understand why it just doesn't work. So I can dig into that a little more. So it's not all the time. It's definitely something that's pretty rarely happens, but just sometimes, mostly on trips.
So when it does happen though, the way we figured out to solve it, in case any of you have encountered this too, if we lock the car and walk away for like 15 or 20 minutes, walk far enough away, like going to Walmart or whatever, it cannot be charging. If it's charging, technically the car is still on. So if you lock the car and walk away, it basically lets it do like a reboot. Then when we come back, the car will be working. And we've also encountered on this Disney trip, which I think this video is going up before the Disney trip, but we had the air pop up that kind of some people may have seen on forums, where it says electric drive motor failure, which says that you should go see your dealer immediately. The car's not going to work. We drove hundreds of miles with that warning on, and then locked the car, walked away from it, came back, and the car worked fine. I think it's just I think there's some sensors that when we're doing our DC fast charging get a little warm, and I think that like I said, some software bugs that just need to be worked out. Yeah. So now let's talk about some things that we really do like, right?
Yeah.
All right, so mine's a quick list I can run down. So I'll just do these in no particular order. One thing, the turning radius in this car. I've owned a Ford Focus, a Jeep Wrangler, a Mustang, and a Chevy Volt. And the turning radius in this car is just ridiculous, because this is the biggest car I've owned, and yet it feels like the smallest. I can't say that enough. I mean, definitely go out and drive it, and you'll be amazed how convenient it is when you're whipping around. I can make a U-turn on a 2-lane road,
It's amazing. It's the best radius I've ever seen in a vehicle.
The seats are incredibly comfortable.
So comfortable.
And not as comfortable as Tesla, in my opinion, but more comfortable than the Mach-E seats. Also, that massage feature that they have, it's just lumbar being inflated and deflated. It's kind of gimmicky, but it does, when we're on a road trip, make a difference of kind of getting blood flowing, keeping you awake a little bit, as well as just making you not feel like you're stagnant in the seat forever.
Yeah.
The stereo, it's pretty decent. It's not like a wow, amazing stereo, but for it's unbranded, right? It's not Fender or Beats or any of those companies. It's just Volkswagen's base stereo. I do think they leave the door open for putting a branded stereo in here soon. A lot of the other brands are doing that. So like, for instance, Ford is using the Bang & Olufsen as their premium stereo. The Kia EV6 is going to have the Meridian sound system, which we're really excited to hear. But
yeah, put some bass. I like that thump.
Yeah, that's right. This is just, I think, a 6-speaker system. There's no subwoofer or anything like that. So hopefully Volkswagen, adds that option down the road. That would be a nice feature to have on future ID.4s. Wireless CarPlay, that's a huge one. So the
Yes.
ID.4 or the Mach-E has that as well. However, the new Kia EV6 and Ioniq 5 do not, which is surprising. And it's just convenient that, I got in the car today. I didn't have to plug in my phone, and it works. One thing to note for road trips, you'll want to plug in your phone because it does drain the battery kind of quick. But if it's just me in the morning going on my morning commute, it's nice to just get in and go navigate through these screens to get to my Apple Maps and get where I got to go. The next thing is that they have they've accepted the future, and there's no USB-A's anywhere in this car. It's all USB-C. So it's nice to have the future proofing in here. Definitely appreciative of that. And there's a lot of them. There's 2 of them right up here and 2 of them right behind me. So everyone in the car can have a USB-C. There might even be another one that I'm missing. And then I think in the back there's actually a cigarette lighter, or like, the 12 volt, which is good too for some people have like coolers that plug in and stuff for road trips. So that's always a convenient feature to have as well. There's no household outlet. That would be, I guess, the one that would be nice to add is our Kia Niro has a household outlet, and that's really convenient for charging laptops and stuff when we're on the road. And then last but not least, the 3 years of free charging has added up a ton.
Yes.
Now if you don't road trip, you're not going to notice this. My buddy has a Tesla Model X for over 1.5 years now, and he just supercharged for the first time a couple days ago. So, if you're someone who isn't going to use the car for road tripping, you're not going to really notice that
benefit.
Yeah, the savings.
Yeah.
But for us, it's thousands of dollars at this point.
It's insane
that we've been able to save.
Yeah.
Because the charging usually costs 30 cents a kilowatt hour, and that adds up. That the equivalent basically becomes like a 40 mile per gallon vehicle running on gas is what it typically costs. So to basically save that, I mean, we have another couple trips we want to upload. This is probably going to be a couple months from now till I get to those. But we basically took the ID.4 to Omaha, and then we did the same exact trip a couple weeks later in our Kia Niro gas car.
Yep.
So I'm going to highlight some of the differences on, yes, the Kia Niro may have saved some time, but it also costed a lot more money due to using gas. So stay tuned for that trip. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our content that's upcoming. But when you are shopping for an electric vehicle, if you think you're going to road trip it, if there's a charging benefit out there, like 30 minutes of free DC charging every stop, or any sort of unlimited charging, definitely look a little closer at that vehicle, because it will add up over time. And that's really been the biggest benefit of this car. Comes to the value, right? So this car was $44,000 for I think it was $44,500 for the first edition rear wheel drive that we have here. We got a $7,500 tax credit on the way. So that brings our price down to $37,500, or $37,000 basically. Then we've saved a couple $1,000s on charging. Not to mention, we plug in it at home, which, we get less than 10 cents a kilowatt hour when we're charging at home versus, $3.50 a gallon for gas over here in Chicagoland. Even more expensive if you go into the city, over $4. And that's where the value proposition really comes in with this vehicle, because the sticker shock, I'm sure, scares a lot of people away. But if you look at what a comparably spec'd Hyundai Tucson, Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, those are going to be well into the low to mid 30s. And then as soon as you start factoring in your maintenance cost of oil changes and gas cost,
Oh yeah.
the Volkswagen's going to be the cheaper vehicle. And in my opinion, it's the nicer vehicle. Like, even if it wasn't the cheaper vehicle, it's nicer to drive every day, more quiet, a little peppier with the instant acceleration. So all in all, I'm pretty happy about this vehicle.
Me too. He covered all the points basically. So yeah, overall we are happy vehicle owners of the Volkswagen ID.4.
Yeah, I would say we were a little bit hesitant going all electric on one of our vehicles, and this car has sold us on the proposition of getting another electric car and replacing the Kia Niro and being an all-electric household.
Possibly an EV6 in the future. We shall see.
An EV6, maybe an F-150 Lightning. I don't know. Stay tuned. Maybe both.
All right, we don't have money like that.
Yeah, if you want us to get both, please like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And take care until next time.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
All right, so I wanted to just take a quick minute here back in the studio as I was editing this video to chat about the efficiency of the vehicle and the charging. So I'll quickly start with the charging. The vehicle is charged as advertised. Almost every time we've pulled up to an Electrify America charger, we're usually try to keep the pack down at a low state of charge, so hopefully in less than 10%. The reason we do that is because the vehicle charges much faster from 10% to 60% than 60% to say 90%, almost twice as fast. So we'll pull in around 10%, and if we're charging to 80%, it'll take just about 35 to 38 minutes as Volkswagen has advertised. So that's been an excellent. A couple of times we've encountered a small charging bug, but typically that in most cases has had to do with the charger itself or just us. We hadn't warmed up the battery properly. So on our future trip, on our Disney trip that we'll post in the future, you'll see that there's a couple times where it charged not as fast as we would have hoped, and that was resulting from a cold battery. So it's really important to always heat up your battery as much as possible before charging. And a great example of that is if you're heading to a hotel and there's a charger nearby that you're going to do a DC fast charge at, make sure you do that charge the night before, because when you wake up the next morning, the battery will have cooled off overnight and you'll experience much, much slower speeds, sometimes half or even less. So instead of getting 125 kilowatts, you'll be getting a speed maybe only 30 or 40 or 50 kilowatts, and that'll essentially more than double the charging time that it'll take to get whatever state of charge you need to get to. The other thing with that is we've highlighted in our trips is we only charge what we need to get to the next charge down the road, because the vehicle charges so fast from 10% to 60%. We want to make sure we just get that 100 miles of range, drive 100 miles down the road. If you feel more comfortable doing a deeper charge till 80 or 90%, that's fine. It will just take longer to get to your next destination. So it's kind of all, I guess, personal preference of how much of a hurry are you in. Usually we're trying to always get somewhere too fast. The next thing I'll quickly talk about is efficiency. And efficiency really, with all electric vehicles, is so dependent on the conditions around. So I've done an ideal weather range test at 75 miles per hour. And then I've done a cold weather range test at 75 miles per hour. And the vehicle's range varied by almost 40 miles between those two different weather conditions. And at the end of the video, I'll post one of the range tests. I'll pin one of those, and then I'll also pin one of our road trips, because our road trips provide all the data as well. So you can see what app we use and how we plan our trip, as well as what efficiency we've gotten during each leg of the trip. And I guess the thing I'll say the most with that as well is the conditions have affected our range more than anything. If we're into a headwind, you can expect efficiencies down below 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty bad. And then when the wind's behind you, you'll get almost 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Around town, we experience typically over 3 miles per kilowatt hour, or even more than that. We'll get the full 250 miles out of the vehicle if we're driving in city conditions. But on the highway, it's definitely expected to be lower to the 210, 220 range, depending on your speed. So really, it's just a case of range will vary, or conditions will make the range vary. Another thing I want to note is every vehicle brand does their testing a little bit differently on how they want to rate the range of their vehicle. And then they also reserve the right to post the range that they would like, as long as it is at or below the EPA certified number. So for companies like Lucid and Tesla, they do a different test cycle that ends up resulting in a bigger range, and they choose to advertise that posted range, which can be very difficult to meet in real world conditions. Whereas Volkswagen and Porsche, for sure, Ford, those brands have derated their range a little bit to present more of a real world scenario of like what range you can expect to get with the vehicle. So I wouldn't let the vehicle's rated range be the reason you buy one car over another. Definitely check out the range test of each of those vehicles that you're interested in to see what the real world results were, not just what the manufacturer stated that you should get, because results can vary just based on, like I said, the weather conditions and just even how much, heat pump versus a resistive element heater. Those are going to use different amounts of heat in the wintertime, etc. There's a lot of variables that play in. So with that, we'll send it back to the video. So that's a wrap for the 2021 Volkswagen ID.4 20,000 mile review, just over 10 months of ownership. And if you haven't already, please do check out our other videos, which involve road tripping, etc. We've done tons of things with this car. We have a lot more planned. Comment down below anything that you would like us to do that you haven't seen already. And take care until next time.
Bye.